Good evening, everybody. Hopefully that's better. Welcome to the stream this evening. I was just setting things up, realised there was a problem with the microphone, and I've forgotten to turn the phantom power on, which makes a big difference because it don't work without it. So I'm going to try carving this evening. Canva, stop doing that. Let's just give it something to focus on. And then it should stop. Oh, come on. Dear. The camera doesn't like the focus for some reason. Okay, well, we'll just put on autofocus for the moment. Oh, is it going to settle? It might be proving a little bit awkward tonight. You're going to settle if I do something like that. Let's see about getting some light in the way of things. I need a ring light for this camera. Definitely need a ring light for this camera. Now then, next thing. Some tools with which to carve. Cup of tea out of the way. Just tilt the microphone down a little bit because at the moment it's pointing at my light, but you should be able to hear me okay. And yeah, I'm going to clamp this down. Which reminds me, at some point I need to buy a rapid clamp rather than trying to use a G-clamp, which does the job fine, but it just takes a bit of time to clamp it down. There we go. Welcome everybody to the studio. Hopefully we're all set up now. Bit of a late tea this evening, so I didn't quite get set up earlier. So what am I doing? It's been a few days since I did any carving, so we're going to see if this is okay. Hopefully it will, because I didn't try it before the stream. So we're about to find out if I can actually do this evening. Well, so far so good, as they say. So what I'm going to do is, I don't actually yet know quite how I want the wings. I'm not quite sure how the body is going to go, in what sort of angle it's at. It's kind of like the dragon's leaning backwards a little bit, but equally well it's also sort of stood on a wide part of the rock and balancing on a narrow part of the rock, so it could be fairly vertical. Because I don't quite know what I'm doing or want to do, what I'm going to do is start to shape it at the very top level here. And once I'm happy with the shape, then I'll lower the whole shape down. If I'm not if I'm not happy with it, I've got some room to play about with it. Normally what I'd do is I'd block carve like this down to the level I want and then carve from there, but given that I'm not sure what I want, this seems like the better option to start with. Now what's going to prove interesting here is the is the fact I can't clear my throat, but is going to prove interesting here is the angle of the grain of wood. I knew I'd get there in the end because it's tilting down at this point, and that's not ideal to carve with from this side of the wood, because it would be very easy for the wood to just dive, you know, the chisel to just dive down with the grain, and then I could end up cutting off more than I want. So I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with it. This is actually the biggest block of wood I've ever carved, so, and also the most probably the most complex shape. Done some interesting shapes like a curled ribbon, a curved ribbon before, but okay. Right, yes, so I'm going to try and carve this without splitting down the wood, which is, as I say, quite difficult because it's at the grain is actually disappearing down at this side. And I've started to split there, so looks like I'm going to have to carve it from the bottom of the piece, which is a bit of an awkward angle and a bit limited in the space I've got available. Okay.
Was that to me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Oops, so there's it. I caught the side of the arm there, which I didn't want to do. And that's partly my fault. I should have had a stop cut in. Actually, I do have a stop cut in there, but it's obviously not deep enough, but just the angle made it difficult. The arm is slightly curved, so again, I've given myself some space because I'm not quite sure of the shapes I wanted. It's a curved arm, slightly curved arm, so I've just given myself a little bit of space along the side there so that if I did overshoot, as I did just then I'm not going to cut off more than I want. Let's go at it like this. It'll be a bit better angle to go at. So just working this out as we go along. I do know the wings don't join the top of the body, they join somewhat slightly further down. So we're leaving, we've cut a space down here from the body to account for that. Probably wants to be a little bit more than that. It's really quite difficult. They're sort of about a third of the body height down. Bubbles the monkey, welcome to the studio this evening. You finally home? You've been away? You've been watching me from holiday or something? I'm finally back to the carving. It's not too bad, so we shall carry on with carving this evening, at least for a while. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how thick the body's going to be. I've got a fair amount of space, but we'll see. Now then, the body is obviously curved, so we'll start to do a little bit of a curve here on the side. One of the advantages of this is I establish the shapes as I go along as well, so that the fact that I'm going to lose my my pencil marks isn't so much of a problem. So a lot of this is fairly tentative carving. I'm not going particularly mad. The foot, of course, is underneath quite a bit, but it's actually the wing goes over the top of the foot, and it goes over just in this sort of angle here. So they're going to be lower, as is that there. Okay. No, it's not. Okay, the foot's lower. The wing joins the body at that particular position. That I'm just working this out. I'm looking at the reference pictures. In actual fact, let me just change some things. Let me take that off of there, put that back on there with that and that, and you can see what we're doing. So it's all about levels. The wing, so the body's above the wing, which is above the leg. As we go back here, the body is above the wing, which is above the leg. The tail is above both legs, and it's roughly, well, it's level with the body, of course, because it's the backbone of the dragon. Yep, and that's going to go all the way down there. So I'm just starting to shape the body. Not a great deal at this stage. I want to be a little bit sure myself before I get that far. Let's get rid of some of the wood in some of these awkward places. So I'm being very tentative with this, really. No bold carving, I'm afraid, with this. I just don't know don't know enough about how I want it to be to go particularly heavy-handed at it. And I wish I could clear my throat. Oh, you've been... Oh, I hope the baby's okay then, Bubbles the monkey. I'm guessing you won't be babysitting very often then if the internet's not very good. This is weird because I'm almost afraid of carving this. It's sort of like being very tentative about, you know, what I'm doing and how I'm going to do it. So that's kind of what I'm going to kind of end up doing really is just doing it in small steps. That way I've got less chance of really messing things up. Which for some reason or other reminds me of a silly joke I once saw. To err is human. To really foul things up requires a computer. Now again here I've done what is really kind of silly. If I'd have thought in advance of carving what I was carving, then what I would have done is do things like leave a lot more space around the foot when I drew it out to allow me to get in with these tools, even these really tiny tools. I've got a little bit of a problem with them. What I will possibly end up doing is either reverting to something like a scalpel or actually getting the micromotor out, which I don't normally like doing over here because it creates a lot of dust. Well, I don't do over here. It creates a lot of dust, but it may well be the only way of actually doing this in the end, because I've got some really fine bits for it, which will get in this space, given that it's essentially the same sort of tools that dentists use. Now, what I'm just doing is really just outlining this foot, because I'm going to lose the pencil marks, and when I do lose the pencil marks I want to be able to still see what it is I'm carving. I know I can draw them back in, but it's a bit easier if I don't actually have to keep doing that every couple of minutes. Then, excuse me, I'm a bit lax on the on keeping up with chat. Let me just move that over there so I can see it a little bit better. Murthus, hello, good evening. welcome to the studio this evening. 3D Bloke, also welcome to the studio this evening. Plan being the operative word there, yes. Right. I am just going to swap glasses. Since I've just got a new pair with a new prescription, I could do with getting a little bit used to them, so. In fact, I'm going to bring up 2 chat windows, and that way I stand a better chance of seeing it all together. Leazar, good evening, welcome to the studio today. Let me put that over there. Because with these glasses that I've just put on now, I can't actually see one of my screens very well. And that's the one that's right in front of me. It's because of these are a reading prescription. So what I'm doing is just starting 2 chat windows. That way then I can see one moving in front of me, and I can actually look at the other one, which is on the other screen that's next to me, and I can actually see that one. Right. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to just carve a little bit around this leg here. So I've got the shape of the leg before I carve it downwards. Now I have to be careful because I don't have a lot of material in here. It would be very easy to crack it off, break it. Not too bad, thank you, Bubbles, to Monkey. I can manage to carve today, so that's definitely an improvement. It remains to be seen if I can carve for the full stream, but doesn't seem too bad at the moment. So here between the sort of the thigh and the foot, you'll be able to see the peak of the mountain or whatever it is, spire, below the dragon. So the depth of this bit is the same as back here. Now I'm not going to be able to get really deep again, as I said before, because this the space doesn't allow me to do that. As I say, ultimately I may have to use something like a scalpel and a knife, rather than a blade, rather than a carving blade, that is, chisel. I'll get my words out one of these days. That little tight interior bit there is going to prove to be a challenge at some point, I can see. So if you are ever thinking of taking up carving and thinking of doing something really complex, which at my stage of carving this is, but probably not to other people, you know, make it easier on yourself. Give yourself room to carve things instead of like me, where I'm having to get in with tiny chisels and I haven't left enough space to give myself a good angle to use them at. Yes, you really need to clean that those bushes out for if you're at them again. No, this isn't ash, Murthas. This ash is, well, actually ash might not be so bad for doing this, but I wouldn't really want to carve the background with ash. It's quite a, for hand tools, it's quite hard wood, is ash. This is well, in America it generally gets called basswood. In Europe it's 50-50 whether it gets called basswood or European lime. It's quite a bit softer than ash, which makes it easier to carve, but does have, you know, strength property problems then. Because, you know, some of these small areas like this would crack off fairly easily if I you know, tap them in the wrong way. But generally speaking, it's a consistent wood across its grain, which makes it a lot easier to carve, because you don't, with something like ash or pine is even worse. You get sort of undulations because the rings, the hard bit of the grain is harder than the soft bit which is between them. On here on basswood, they're more or less the same sort of density, so you don't tend to have that problem of they are creating like an undulated surface. It carves fairly smoothly. And this leg is effectively quite a bit lower down than the body. Be careful here, the grain is wanting to push the chisel that way, and I don't want it to do that. I want to carve this fairly flat, at least for the moment. I just want to what I would call block lower this, just drop the whole surface down by a few millimeters for the moment. It's small detail like this is I'm not trying to carve the detail at this stage, but I am kind of stuck working with small areas. Okay, but at least what I can do now is I can see the shape of the foot, even now though the pencil marks have now gone. Generally speaking, don't like carving off the edge of the piece. It's easy to do all sorts of things like that. It's why I'm holding this chisel fairly well. I'm holding it with this hand. I'm just driving it very gently with my left hand. I don't want to be putting any real pressure on this, so I don't want the chisel to go somewhere I don't want it to go. I've already had enough surgery. Don't want any more. So because his leg is tucked under the body, on this side the leg's extended, so the body just drifts into the leg, for want of a better description. But on this side, because he's got it tucked up and it's tucked up under the body, there's a distinct level change. Yes, Ash does do things like that. The rose that I carved, here, this was Ash, and trying to carve power tools or a lathe would be a nice wood, because the hardness makes it a lot easier to work when you've got the power tools like that. And you get it doesn't split off, and it doesn't jam up the tools, and it doesn't you don't drive into them too easily to get more than you expected. But when you're trying to drive them with just a hand tool, it's really hard, which is why the relief carving on this is just relieved around the outside, not the full item, because it was really hard work, and that's why it's a really shallow relief as well, relief carve, which doesn't come out too bad. But I was pleased to get. I didn't have any basswood at the time, and that was the only piece of wood I had, so that's why I used it. But yeah, for lathe work, I can imagine it being a really nice wood. Or if you're using any form of power tool. If I had a power attachment for the rotary drive, I could have potentially used these same chisels, but just done them on the reciprocating drive, and then it wouldn't have been so bad carving the ash. Okay, the wood is telling me not to push at that point. Let's create a stop cut just in case. Aha! Oh, you thought you'd maybe split the nozzle, didn't you? Which I understand is easier to do on the badgers than it is on the earwetters, because of the finer taper on the needle. You've discovered there was actually something in there, or were you just leaking air from somewhere? Now it strikes me that this is his knee, so it's probably got the knee sort of out. Well, he has got the knee out, but it kind of strikes me as it would be sort of no, I'm totally wrong. I was thinking of the angles, and it should which way the leg would curve, and I'm talking a lot of rubbish. It's curving. I need it to curve this way. This chisel's a little bit dull. I thought you've got a little bit of paint somewhere in the thread, perhaps, and you've just managed to dislodge it. It can be very relaxing. It depends on how you go about it, to be honest. I mean, it's not a job. I've no particular reason to go at high speed, if you like. And to some extent, if I was going at high speed, I'd be using the rotary tools, but after all, that will still be hand carved. But I have no particular desire to be really fast at doing this. I don't have that level of experience. If I did, then I'd be able to look at this piece and go, yeah, that's what I want to do, and as I say, block carve it down, and then I'd be a lot quicker. There we go. So this is a lot of tentative carving. Is this? It's not particularly bold carving at all. But I can afford to take my time. Okay, and now I can continue that slight curve I've just done there on the body down into the tail. Not much at this stage, but again, just almost just hints to me as I'm carving. Tail starts about there, so it's going to be about here. Okay. So just a rough outline of the tail, because the tail is above the legs. Okay, and I'm going to lose this pencil mark, so we'll just now start to cut around the foot. Again, just leaving myself plenty of wood, trying to support the foot as much as possible, really, because it will be a thin area, and I really don't want to snap it off while I'm carving it. Actually, I don't want to snap it off at all, whether it's before or after I've carved it, but how are the cats today? Junior's been outside most of the day. Felix has been asleep on the bed most of the day, and Cleo's been sat on my wife every moment she could climb there. We may have some. Cleo may not be quite so well. She's been washing her tummy an awful lot, to the point where it's it's wet. She's washed it that much, so she's probably got something irritating her a little bit on her stomach. Most likely there's probably either she's got a tick underneath there, or there's just a few fleas that have got her on her belly, so we'll be taking a closer look at her later to see if there's any ticks there, but if it's just a few fleas, then she's due for her flea for defleeing, basically. But apart from that, she seems to be in good health. Okay, yeah, water residue. Might be worth just flushing them with something like deionized water afterwards, free. You know, the sort of stuff in a car shop, so it's fairly cheap. It doesn't have to be distilled. Yeah, that way you won't get any, or you won't get much residue at all. Or alternatively, just blast them off with the other airbrush. Yeah, I know I said I like challenges, but I like challenges as a concept. Sometimes I don't like them in practice, like trying to get in here. Okay, but that's enough to shave the leg down a little bit. Okay. I guess I've got to try and go around the tail as well. This bit I'm not looking forward to. This is where I can do major damage to the piece, is to crack this tail off. I'm probably not going to make it as thin as it actually should be, just because it will otherwise be probably quite fragile. It might move in before long, them three, if you're not careful. My wife would love that. She loves ginger cats. She keeps dropping hints, which I keep carefully avoiding. I think the three we've got, at least for the moment, are more than enough. Well, to say I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and don't seem to be doing too bad at it. Anybody who actually sort of does does carving a lot is probably pulling the hair out how slow I'm going, but yeah, you see, that was a piece that just ripped off. And no pets rule. Does that mean that there's no rule about pets, or the rule is that there's no pets? I know the answer, but just the English language. It is a bit weird in a way. Yeah. Do what you like to the house as long as you don't put pets in there. Yeah. Well, he's the landlord, so you don't have much choice either way. Is that Rihanna? What's it? Rihanna DeWitt 2001. Thank you very much for following the studio. That is absolutely fantastic of you. I do appreciate it very much. I'm glad you're enjoying what you are seeing. Just one of many crafts which we do on stream. Yeah, Leah, if I had a better image in my mind about what I was after, then it'd be a bit faster. But I'm not. I haven't quite. Well, I haven't got that image in my mind, and that's mainly why I'm being sort of relatively tentative about it. Excuse me a moment. Excuse me a moment, guys. I'll be back in a second. Okay, ow, I'm back, guys. The ow was just me banging my knee on something. Just a little bit of computer support there. I just this evening just reduced my wife's email file in size from just over 3.5 gigabytes and down to 500 meg. Actually, no, 500k. Oh yeah, 500 meg. That's right. Deleted a heck of a lot of old emails. But as is usual with computer support, it's I can't do that, I don't have time. So you know the thing. Sort by date, select date, select end date, delete. It took longer to compress the mail file than it did to do the deleting. Your English is not so good, you're Dutch. Okay, that's not a problem. Your English is better than my Dutch. So you don't need to apologise for that. Just anybody that's new in the channel, I will try and keep up with chat, but just bear with me as I may be a little while getting around to reading the messages. I don't really want to try and read them at the same time as waving one of these things around. They're sharp and I don't want to cut myself. Yep. And switch to a gouge. Back from a crash, yeah? Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of emails. I think I deleted something like 500,000. Bubbles, I imagine he's talking Dutch there. I will not bother trying to translate. Couple of small tiny chisels here really. This is a V tool. Now, so called because it creates a V. when you carve, you get a V groove. I don't know if that's visible, but literally sort of a V-shaped thing. very good for getting into 90-degree corners and things like that. And then I've got just a U shape. This is a U, so it's more of a curved shape, which is also useful for getting into some of the smaller areas, but won't actually give you a sharp corner. You're carving. Try and avoid really sharp angles like this. If you can, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. Yeah, I'll think about best way of doing that again later. Okay, I shall trust you to keep order there, Bubbles the Monkey. But ideally, Vienna DeWitt, 2001. If you could manage English, that would certainly help me out quite a bit, and it would help out the guys, or the other guys in chat as well, who will hopefully be able to talk with you at the same time. Because I suspect Bubbles is the only one that knows enough of the language to be able to converse. Given that I don't really know what I'm doing with this, all that I am doing at this moment in time is just giving myself, carving a bit more of this waste wood away, just to give myself a little bit of space around the tail. Actually, well, it is waste wood, but it's wood that's represents the pinnacle or spire that Ruth here is stood on. So I have to recall, or be careful to recall, that this isn't going all the way down to the baseboard. Let's clear a little bit of that wood out of there. Watch your ears if you're wearing a headset. There you go. Can't say I didn't give you warning. Right, how do I want this? Head's the highest part, body goes down. Arms are there, so we're going to have the same. So wing joint. So we're going to have a gap in here. Choose the edge of the wing and around the back of the head. I'm not that bothered at this stage of getting exact shapes, so I'm not exactly following the curves there, just straight line segments. Which is enough to carve to start with. You can always adjust the curves afterwards. Okay. I'm gathering then in where Afrikaans is spoken, then there's been a lot of Dutch influence in the past. Oh dear, don't quite understand that conversation, but it sounds complicated. Okay, well, we've got a little bit of space in there now so I can see what's going on, and may well be a good candidate for, yeah, I think we're probably going to end up actually with the rotary micro motor out on this in order to do some of these areas here, which will prove interesting. So the wing arm joints are still lower than the wing. Okay, so let's mark the edge of the arm along here. And then we can carve the wing surface itself slightly away from the arm joint, because the arm joint itself is obviously joined to the body but not right on the back. If I carve down a little bit like this, I can maintain my outline of the arm itself, and then I can lower the arm. And I've got to be a bit careful because the grain disappears down into the wood at this point, and it's wanting to take the chisel with it. And okay, this would be the better site to carve from, but I kind of want it to come up to this stop line here rather than away from it. Which means I'm probably going to have to go at this sort of angle, but it's still going to want to drag the chisel, twist the chisel. Okay, but now then it means I can, having just carved that little bit away there, I can now apply a curve along here, which is effectively coming up to the shoulders of the dragon. So I start to curve the body over, and I can also do the neck, or a little bit of the neck as well. And it's obviously it's got his head turned from the front to the side, So there's going to be a twist in there, which is going to be an interesting thing as to quite where that is. It's probably going to be somewhere in this sort of area. That's okay, Rihanna, do it. You're quite welcome to just lurk there in chat and ooh, if I understood that correctly, what's all the play slapping about? And now we're going to do the same thing on the other one. So we'll take the wing membrane down again around the arm. The grain of the wood is the biggest challenge. Well, I was going to say the biggest challenge here. Some of the small spaces are a challenge as well, but the grain of the wood is proving to be an interesting challenge to get around the fact that I can't actually carve in the ideal direction most of the time. Oh, sleep. Okay. Wishing you a good night. Okay, misunderstood then. Okay, so having got a bit of space there, I can then go across the arm and carve that down. Which then allows me to put a curve around there, which is the start, again, start of the body and start of the shoulders there. And of course the neck as well. Right, I guess I'm going to have to do some cutting around that. Now this is waste wood at this point here. Now you might not be able to see this, but as I'm just sharing down here, I can see this piece of wood moving, which worries me because I don't want it to push off. If it does, we've got a bit of we've got a little bit of leeway. If it pushes off too much, we give up and do something else, and the whole thing goes into the round portfolio. Yeah. I'm going to keep saying it quite a lot. It's an awkward area to get into. I've created the awkward area because of the way I've drawn it, but if I actually succeed in doing this at the end, I'm going to be really pleased. And I'll have learned a heck of a lot about what not to do if you want an easy life. Z Squigglex, good evening. Thank you for following the studio. That is most excellent of you, and I'm glad you're enjoying what you're looking at. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Bailey J00 also, thank you for following the studio as well. It is also most excellent of you, sir, madam, pussycat, dog, whatever. Thank you very much for that. Just shaving a little bit of the neck block down there. Actually, it wants to be a heck of a lot further in than that. So, because the neck starts about there. Woodpecker, good evening. Welcome to the studio. Oh, you've finished your stream, have you, Eddie Fall Guy? I can see that you have, because you're offline. I was watching you earlier on. There's still 400 rings to go. Blimey. Yeah. Oh, whoop! Yeah, indeed, you're right. You're right, Laser. I did, in actual fact, misread it. I read what I was expecting, or thought I was expecting to see. So, welcome, Whoopdecker, to the stream. I apologise for completely getting your name wrong to start with. I'm guessing that you're quite used to that by now, though. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. That's kind of you to say that. I'm sure before the end of this piece is over, I'm going to regret actually doing this. Not what I'm doing now, but this actual piece. So I'll be pleased if I achieve it, but see if I can get in there with this. Thank you. I'm glad you're not holding it against me. As the other guys will probably, well, hopefully would attest to, I do really try to get use people's names as they would like them to be used. I do try not to shorten them or anything. So getting it such completely wrong as I did at first is not very nice. Wow, time's getting on. Are you streaming tonight, Free? If you are, you've got a 15-minute warning, sir. If you're not, then forget what I just said. Unfortunately, it's probably a bit difficult for you to see what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to get some of this waste wood under the dragon's neck away from there. Whoop Decker, it's popped up. Thank you very much for that. Despite my butchering your name to start with, I do appreciate you following. Thank you very much for that. Sorry, my hands are in the way. I'm trying to just dry this chisel very gently. In a space where I have no space. It's kind of like nibbling bits of wood out. I'm almost taking advantage of the fact that, well, I am taking advantage of the fact that this wood will split very easily, because by creating a V cut, which is what I'm doing, I'm then encouraging the wood to split along the plane but of the grain. But I'm trying to do it really carefully because I could end up splitting a lot more off than I want. Because ultimately, even with a dental drill of some kind, I couldn't actually get right into a sharp point like this. That does help get video out of it free if you do plug it back in. It's a bit like me forgetting to turn the phantom power on when I started the stream. Have I got any complete stuff to show off? Carving, I assume you mean, Whoop Decker? Not a great deal. Most of my carving that I did, well, I've only done one piece on stream. Most of the other carving has been done before that, and most of it I have absolutely no idea where it is. I did a nice ribbon, and I've done some leaves, beginner stuff, but leaves, nice ribbon, which I did as an anniversary present, a ribbon with hearts and things. This is the piece that was done on stream, carved in ash, relief carved into ash, which was challenging because the wood is hard. It's really hard to carve. Using just pure hand tools, which is why it's just outlined. So that's, and then these guys on the stream persuaded me to put some paint on it, which is the first time I've painted. First time I carved ash, first time I painted a carving, and the first time I've carved on stream. Apart from that, a couple of other things I've got over here, which is, well, this was done with some rotary carving tools. So this was just an odd bit of firewood. So having just bought some rotary carving tools, I thought I'll have a go, and it's not great. As you can see, it's really rough in some places, really smooth in others. But that was a first attempt, which I'm quite pleased at. It's got a nice shape to it, but it's not a great carving, but it's quite nice to touch. I love touching this stuff. What else do we have? I've started mainly just practicing using knives, what people might call whittling, I guess, but hand carving with knives. A 3D cat, which I haven't done much more with just yet. And since I'm no good at 3D carving at all, practice wise, I've started practicing what do you call them? Statue, I guess. So that's sort of started, but I've not got much further. Problem is with finishing those sorts of things off, I'm now streaming. I don't have a lot of time to finish them off. Okay, if you are streaming in a bit, I'll probably at least watch you whilst I watch a few other things as well. Bubbles, Bubbles the monkey. Sorry. Oh, I don't know. I think that's just cool. You know, I've got a kit, so if you think what I do is cool, I've got a kit. Therefore, beads are cool. Therefore, what you do is cool. Okay. Well, this is kind of in the style of fan art. The drawing, the reference image that you see at the bottom left, which is the rough outline of this, is actually an image by Michael Wheland, who is an illustrator, and the dragon is one. A depiction of one from an author called Anne McCaffrey, of who wrote a series of books on a world, science fiction books. This is, well, science fiction folklore on a world called Pern, and this is one of the dragons from that world, which coexists with mankind to help overcome a menace on the world. And this one is white, as you can see in the reference image, which uniquely identifies him as being Ruth, the white dragon. And I quite like the image that Michael Wheland has for these dragons, because they're whilst they're formidable, they're not all sharp teeth and scales and things like that. they're somewhat of a more, I don't say exactly friendly, but you know, something that's big enough to carry a person and breathes fire isn't necessarily a particularly friendly looking beast, but what were the books called? There is actually a whole series of them. There must be something like 20 or 30 books, and unfortunately Anne McCaffrey is no longer with us, but her son Todd McCaffrey has continued to write stories in the same world. The one where you first see Ruth, it's written, but the one where Ruth first appears, or perhaps the best one for Ruth, is called The White Dragon. But if you look up Anne McCaffrey as an author, there'll be some books in a series called The Tower and the Hive, which are about it's in the future. It's about a group of people who are telekinetic and have telepathy, and they act as the universe's postman, if you like, firing packages and starships around the galaxy. There's a series which is called The Shell People, which is about I can't quite exactly how to. It's about people. It sounds terrible, but it's about people who are actually act as computers, but they're real people. You kind of have to read the synopsis on those books. It's a lot better than I'm describing. And then there's the book. There's a series which is called Pern, basically, Pern, which is where the dragons come in. But there is a lot in the series. Kind of the science fiction. Well, other than the humans actually came from Earth, and they kind of know they came from somewhere else. A good 3/4 of the books are really sort of folklore, but the dragons are through all of them. It's only in the sort of latter third, or perhaps even later than that the true science fiction comes into it, when they discover an artificial intelligence which the first settlers from Earth created on the planet, and then abandoned for reasons which you get to know about. And that artificial intelligence helps them also overcome the menace. I found them a really interesting set of books to read. Anne McCaffrey books, I liked reading them so much that if a new one came out, I'd just pick it up off the shelf. I wouldn't even bother reading the synopsis. I'd just pick it up off the shelf and take it to the counter to pay for it. That's how much I enjoyed reading her books. Unfortunately, I haven't read any. I haven't read any of her son's books actually. I have kind of just gone off reading books for a while. That's no reflection on Todd. Well, I find them interesting. Obviously, it depends on your idea, but these are, if you like, friendly dragons. You'll find fire lizards as well, which are small versions of them in the books, which are wild but can be tamed. There's a whole story behind the dragons, which if you do read the books you'll get into, so I won't actually give it away. But their dragons are friendly. They're not, they live. I hesitate to say in symbiosis, but they sort of do bond to their rider, and they can communicate telepathically with their rider and with some people and each other. So the dragons are intelligent. They're not dumb. Okay, so that's just clearing out under the neck. Oops, I didn't want that chisel, I wanted this one. Now he's got his neck twisted around, obviously, to look actually to one side. Because although in the books it refers to the dragon sort of turning the heads to look at the riders, they also have short necks. So unless they're doing what Ruth is doing here, and that is just looking with one eye, it strikes me as quite difficult for them to turn their necks quite a bit. But there again, I guess owls can turn their necks all the way around, so why shouldn't a dragon be able to? So I'm just sort of marking a neck crease, shall we say, in here. And we're going to have probably a sort of another crease around here as well, I think. So we'll sort of carve a little bit of that in. Like that, and that's sort of the main my main blocking out that I'm doing in this bit, because okay, I've got that to carve down. I've got to decide what to do with the wings. I can follow roughly what the reference image does. I think. And he's kind of holding them slightly back. Phantom Blitz, good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's quite cool, you're right. Sorry. I can't really resist that as a joke. We've got, okay, what we could do with doing is the wing membranes. As I say, I think actually is, if you imagine the bodies here, is I was thinking at first his wings would be down like this, but in actual fact he's got them really sort of back. which could prove interesting. Well, let's have a look at that. See his wing rib down. He's got okay, there's two. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay, so that's just the leading edge is the fourth finger. That's around there, that's the leading edge. It's going into the same sort of... Okay, well... no, we're gonna... the dragons are four-fingered. I'm going to do them three-fingered. It's going to be easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of gouge work, just a little bit around here, because the wing membranes are the dent up. If you've ever seen an umbrella that's really tight, the between the ribs of the umbrella, you get a valley, if you like, and that's what's showing here on the reference image for the way in which the wings, the wing membranes are. They're sort of really tight, but they dent inwards. So I'm going to apply a little bit of that shape. Having first sharpened this chisel. Whoopdecker. Okay. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whichever is appropriate for wherever you are. Thank you very much for watching, and you're welcome back at any time. Of course, you'll get the notifications, and if you want, I do have a Twitter account, it's Arrogant Art, and the details are below the window if you want, in case you don't trust Twitch to tell you when I go live. Okay. Whilst I am actually sharpening this, I'm kind of just polishing the fine edge more than anything, which is enough to restore quite a sharp edge to these chisels. This is a curved chisel, so as I'm drawing it backwards, I'm actually rotating the chisel, as you might be able to see, but I'm doing that with these fingers back here, so I'm just twisting it like that as I draw it backwards. Okay, now that creates a burr on this side which will effectively feel like it's blunt. So all I'm going to do is use one of these wooden profiles on this side with another little bit of polishing compound and just draw it backwards, and that's enough. In fact, I'll do it on this one as well. That's enough to straighten out the burr that was created, which should, there we go, restore the sharp edge to this chisel. I'm still carving it against the wrong way against the grain, shall we say, but so I have to be careful about the wood splitting, which is what it's doing. Since the wings are going to be held back. I'm going to be careful not to split too much of the wood, because this is going to be one of the high points around here. But this is just to give me a working idea of the shapes that I want. Now that another shape that I want here, I can just apply a little bit more around here, around the arm. And I can do the same. Actually, I've got to be careful with this because these corners are sharp, so brushing stuff off like that is something I have to be a bit careful of. Now then, I should really turn the piece around a little bit for this, but I'm not doing an awful lot of it, so I'm just going to be driving it with my fingers. It's a bit of an awkward angle. Well, you're welcome to follow me on Twitter, as I say. I don't. The only tweet that goes out is the fact that I'm going live, so you don't need to worry about getting thousands of them from me. I'm not I'm not really a tweeter at all much. In some cases I fail to see what's quite interesting about knowing what somebody had for dinner. And yes, I'm being completely unfair there. Okay, that gives me an idea of where I want the membrane to be. In actual fact, the wings here are more like bat wings than bird wings. So if you're imagining wings like a bird, then sorry, these are like a bat. Yeah, and that's kind of more flat, but we'll curve away from the elbow. That's silly. Do it the other way. There we go. Using a gouge here, well, it serves two purposes. One is I'm after a curved shape, and the gouge is curved, but it's also spoon shaped as opposed to being straight. And what that means is as I go into the wood, I can tilt like that and drive the chisel back out again. I've got the room to do it. If I was to drive into wood with this, it's flat, I've got nowhere to go, although you drive it this way. I still don't have very much space in which to drive this back out, so the gouge makes it a lot easier to gouge out material, which I gather is where the name probably came from. We've then got down the back, so we've got a backbone that sort of shows up around here. So I've switched to a narrower gouge now. So the idea of this is just to me to put a line down the back either side of the spine, because it's not jagged. Whilst the dragons do in the books do have ridges, they have them on the neck area, so just up here. In actual fact, this drawing isn't quite Michael Wheland's drawing of the dragons doesn't quite match the stories, in that the dragon riders, that's the people who ride the dragon, that are bonded with the dragon, sit between the third and the fourth neck ridge. And on the reference picture you can't see it, but if there is a ridge is sat between, then it's completely hidden. But the spine sticks out a little bit, but it's curved, obviously, just like ours are. So it doesn't stick out like a spike. It just sticks out as a round shape. So what I've then got is, if that's the spine, then obviously the back itself has to be below that spine level. So having done that with that gouge, what I'll then do is actually I'm going to pick a really shallow one, just to take a little bit off the back here. Again, I'm kind of just trying to establish the picture in my mind so that I can be a little bit more bold. Okay, so with the different colours of the wood, you should get an idea of the backbone is now starting to stick up, and this is sort of the sides of the back, if that makes sense, before you go into curve down to the side of the body itself. And then down into the leg there. Now I'm guessing the shoulders are going to be higher up than the middle of the back, but the whole thing wants to go down a bit. But I'll do this quite a lot, which is just almost fiddling around, jumping around a little bit. So those people that watch me will see me just do odd bits like that, and I'll come over here and I'll go and backwards and forwards. Laser, good night. Sorry if I didn't see you before you've gone. Hope you have a good night. I will just sort of, as I'm doing things, I'll just hop around and do a little bit like this, and gradually the whole thing, until I get a picture established, perhaps the whole thing will just gradually sink as I do bits and establish shapes. Like obviously this back wants to be a bit more rounded than it is at the moment, as does the tail. And I'll just keep shaping it, hopefully without digging a chisel in, which is what I just did there. Until I've fully established the shapes, and then maybe I can go at it a bit more aggressively. But there again, I could also just, by the time I've established the shapes, may well be at the level I want, and I don't have to. Anyway, rather than fiddling around a bit more, I'm saying anyway because it is now 20 past 10 in the UK. It's about time I stopped for this evening, which will be good. Whilst my stomach muscles aren't complaining at the moment, I don't want to give them cause to do so. I do have to work tomorrow, and I'm sure you guys would like me to carve tomorrow night, so I do need to relax a little bit. I shall get myself a nice cold drink, sit back, watch a couple of streams. I think we've probably got 3D Bloke, who you might have seen his stream earlier, an airbrush artist. I suspect he's streaming. Bubbles the Monkey also said she may well stream. Have you started streaming yet, Bubbles? That's assuming you're still around. Either of which are excellent streamers. Not Eddie Fall Guy isn't streaming at the moment. He's finished his stream for this evening. He didn't play the game that he was going to. But AD Fall Guy makes chainmail jewellery, some really excellent jewellery. I've bought some from him. He's also inspired me to try it for myself, so you may see some of that on stream in the future. Not for a little while yet though, because what I did do on stream and what I bought from AD as well were for my wife's birthday present. So until it's her birthday, I can't really do any more streaming of that stuff. Plus I haven't bought any more stuff to do it with. Trying not to spend quite so much more money this month, having already spent some. So check AD Fall Guy out. He's, I say, he's an excellent streamer. I find it most fun to watch him doing that stuff. 3D Bloke, airbrush artist, as I mentioned. I'll check if he's streaming, because if he is, I'll host him after this. And Bubbles the Monkey, who makes some really excellent bead art. That's the fuse beads stuff, like Perla you may have heard of. In the meantime, what I want to do is say thank you to everybody who has watched me this evening. To the people that have followed me in the stream. I know Execute Fox followed me at the suggestion of AD Fall Guy earlier this afternoon, so if they're around, thank you very much for doing that. Rihanna DeWitt, thank you also for watching and joining the studio, and I hope you have a good sleep. Z Squiggle X also, Bailey J00, and Whoop Decker, who I believe now has disappeared, but thank you all for watching. Anybody else who is watching and would like to follow the stream, I certainly would appreciate it. The buttons are of course below the stream. Sorry about the jerking of, I'll leave that there for the moment. There's something about the camera, doesn't like focusing on the blue stuff. As I say, the buttons below the window for following, and hopefully then Twitch will tell you. As I mentioned to Whoop Decker, you can also follow me on Twitter at Zaraganart. Details are also below the window. As for when I stream, if you just feel like dropping in, I stream generally 7 nights a week from 8 PM in the UK. That's 1900 hours GMT. Or if you're not sure what time that is, look at your clock, subtract 2.5 hours, and that's roughly when I start. Occasionally will be earlier, occasionally will be later, and from time to time there will be bonus streams on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, depending just on what I'm doing, etc. I'm going to host 3D Bloke now, so if you want to see him, you're quite welcome to stay here, but if you want to chat, you will of course need to transfer over to his stream. But if you just want to check him out quietly, then by all means just stay on stream, and his airbrushing should pop up shortly. Thank you all and have a good night.